Hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning into this ASMR true crime soft spoken video. I want to start by expressing so much gratitude and appreciation for the comments and the support I get. I feel like I have one of the best subscribers. You guys are just so kind and supportive, and I can't even put into words how much reading your comments means to me. This has made this experience of making YouTube videos so amazing. So I just want to thank you so much for that. So today we're going to be doing a disappearance case. We are going to be talking about Paula Jean Weldon. Paula was born October 19th, 1928 in Stamford, Connecticut. She was the eldest of 4 daughters of the well-known industrial engineer, architect, and designer William Archibald Weldon and his wife, Jean Douglas. Her father was the designer of many familiar household utensils, as well as stylish cocktail shakers and other objects. So Paula was described as being this really artistic and outgoing person. She enjoyed painting in oils and watercolors, pencil and charcoal sketching, and playing the guitar. She was very physically active, and she was this experienced hiker and camper. I also saw that she liked to square dance, which I think is the funnest little detail. But Paula graduated from Stamford High School in 1945. She went on to attend Bennington College in North Bennington, Vermont. This was a private liberal arts college that was founded in 1932 as a women's college. It did become co-ed in 1969. It claims to be the first college to include visual and performing arts as an equal partner in the liberal arts curriculum. So it's 1946. Paula is 18 years old and a sophomore who is trying to figure out the next steps in her life and college career. She was a good student. She was majoring in art, but she had lately become less interested in the subject. She found herself drawn to music and botany, which is like the study of plant life and the biochemical process, I believe. So she was trying to figure out if she wanted to change her major. She lived in the Dewey House dorms located on campus and had a campus job at the dining hall. On December 1st, 1946, she worked the breakfast and lunch double shift at the dining hall and then returned to her dorm room and spoke to her roommate, Elizabeth Johnson, for a while. She decided that she wanted to take a study break and go for a hike. She tried to get her roommate and others to join her for this hike, but since it was exam time, they were all busy and not able to go. She decides to go on her own, but does not tell anyone where she is going specifically. It's believed that she was going to head maybe towards the Long Trail, which was a 273-mile trail stretching the length of Vermont from Massachusetts to Columbia to Canada. The trail was only a short distance from the college. So So she left campus shortly after 2:30 p.m. and she was wearing a red parka with a fur-lined hood, denim jeans, and topsiders. And for those who don't know, they're like Sperry's. So what she was wearing would not have been proper attire for a long-term hike or a hike that went into the later hours as the temperature dropped in the December month. I actually looked up the weather on December 1st, 1946, and it says that around 2:30 p.m. it would have been about 42 degrees. The temperature then had a steady decrease in degrees until about 9 p.m. and then the temperature had a sudden drop from 33 to 9 degrees. The wind chill was recorded as being in the 12 to 24 mile per hour range. Now, obviously, I don't know how accurate Googling the weather from 1946 is, but it is Vermont in December, and so I know that shit was cold. Global warming was not even a thought in those days or a thing, but she was, I don't think, properly dressed in my personal opinion. So she had also left all of her personal belongings in her dorm room, with the exception of a gold wristwatch with a black band. She even left behind an uncashed check that her parents had sent her. So Bennington students were required to sign out of the school if they planned to be out late, and to check in with a security guard after they returned. There was no record of her signing the logbook or speaking to anyone in campus security. So she is spotted by a gas station owner named Dan Fager, who states that he saw Paula walking near a gravel pit close to the main entrance of Bennington College around 12:45 p.m. She turned to her right, ran up a small knoll at the college entrance, ran back down, and then walked down towards Route 67A. She then stood at the highway in order to hitchhike a ride. And a little bit later, she was picked up by Louis Knapp. He told her that he would be able to take her as far as where his home was located on Route 9, which would be about 3 miles away from the long trail where she planned to hike and wanted to go. So he drives her down to this location. It's reported that she was quiet during this car ride, but was very polite. He drops her off along Route 9 and she heads towards the trail. At about 4 p.m., Ernest Whitman and 3 friends are coming out of a camp in Brickford Hollow when they see Paula. She stops the group and asks Ernie about the length of the trail, which they reply, and she thanks them and continues. He does tell authorities he did try to make a comment about her not being properly dressed for the weather, but she kind of just disregards this and begins heading towards a bridge leading to the trail. This would be the last credible sighting of Paula. Several other Woodford residents claim to have seen her in the vicinity of Fay Fuller Camp, which was further up the trail, but the reliability of these reports is uncertain. So at first, her roommate assumed she may have gone to the library to study after not returning home later that evening. But then on Monday, December 2nd, she was reported missing by her roommate after she did not return to campus. Mary Garrett, who was the director of admissions, calls the state attorney William Travers Jerome Jr. to the college at noon, and the police and her parents are notified. Upon hearing the news of her daughter's disappearance, Paula's mother faints and is on bed rest due to the emotional toll it takes. Her father immediately drives down to Bennington. He drives up to Bennington, not down. Police, students, local residents, and even the Boy Scouts search for her. A bulldozer was brought in to dig up the gravel pit where she was last seen by Dan Fager, which was by the college entrance. Paula had once said that she would like to visit the Everett Cave on Mount Anthony, so Henry Steele, who was a guide, along with some students, headed to the cave area that afternoon but found nothing. So it's at this time Vermont did not have its own state police force. Only local police were present, which made the initial search efforts limited and not very well managed. Paula's father is extremely frustrated by the efforts made by local police and uses his connections to call in state police from both New York and Connecticut to help with the search efforts. After pressing the Vermont Governor Proctor to use outside state police, Governor Proctor does ask Connecticut State Police to lend assistance. That evening, the media put out her story and photographs circulated. Her father puts out a $5,000 reward for anyone with information. As the news of this disappearance begins to spread, people start bringing in reports of sightings of her across the East Coast. Connecticut State Police Detective Robert Rundle and State Policewoman Dorothy Scoville were assigned to the case. They interviewed every person who saw or thought they saw Paula, and every person who lived along the route that she took or were around the area of the long trail on that afternoon in December. Abe Ruskin was a local taxi driver who stated that he had taken a student to the bus station on Sunday afternoon, but couldn't positively identify her as Paula. There were several buses that had gone out that day to various areas of Pittsfield, New York City, Albany, Burlington. Nobody could remember anyone of her description, but it was a very busy day. In addition, a waitress at the Modern Restaurant on Pleasant Street said that she had served a girl matching Paula's description at 9:30 p.m. She said the girl was with a young man who was about 25 years old, who was drunk and abusive. When he went to the counter, the girl signaled the waitress to come over. She asked her how far it was to Bennington, Vermont, and then asked where she was. She said she had to get to Bennington and that she arrived in Fall River with $1,000, but had nothing left. The girl had not been drinking, but seemed dazed. Investigators are also scanning through the residents in the area where she went missing. One of those residents was a local lumberjack named Fred Cadet. Fred lived in a cabin along the long trail and is said to have given different accounts of what he was doing the day Paula disappeared, which was very suspicious. On December 15th, the search operation was stopped and no evidence was found in connection to Paula. In the weeks and months following his daughter's disappearance, her father was very vocal in his criticism of law enforcement and that the fact that the investigation was not done correctly. He criticized that the state of Vermont did not have its own police force. In May the following year, when the snow melted, Paula's father organized another 2-day search, but no trace of Paula was found. One of the key factors that has been considered is the lack of state police force in Vermont at the time. Her father actually discovers that the local police had not kept any written records for the first 10 days following his daughter's disappearance. The police failure to find Paula eventually led to the creation of the Vermont State Police in July 1947. In 1968, a skeleton was found. There was hopes that maybe this would be Paula and it would help with this case, but the remains were found to not be Paula. The case ultimately went cold and she was eventually declared dead, and no sign of her or her belongings were ever found. So we'll go into the theories. The first theory is that Paula died due to natural conditions while on this hike. Perhaps she had gotten lost while on the trails and was located far away from the original area that would have been searched. The conditions of this hike had many challenges, such as the ground being extremely rough. There were many rocks and water surrounding the trail. The trail extended all the way to Canada and had multiple paths that would join together, so it could be very confusing even for an experienced hiker. After about 4 o'clock, it starts to get dark, and then the weather dips into low temperatures with the potential of snow, fog, and high winds. I did see it reported in one space that her and her roommate had actually camped out one night on the trail 3 weeks prior to the disappearance. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I didn't see it reported in many places. And just like with the conditions of the weather at night, it feels like this would not be a good idea for anyone to do. But if they had done this before, perhaps if she got lost or tired, she maybe would have decided to camp out and then maybe died due to weather conditions. Another theory suggests that Paula was depressed and either ran away or committed suicide. According to some accounts, Paula was considering changing her major and was struggling with this decision and was feeling somewhat depressed in the days or weeks prior to her disappearance. She did appear to have an argument with her father, which also contributed to her emotional state. Some girls in Paula's residence at the college said that she had been extraordinarily happy on Saturday night, causing some to suspect that she may have decided to make a change in her life, using hiking as a diversion. But her parents disagreed with this theory completely. Instead, it's suspected that her boyfriend may have been involved. From what I researched, her boyfriend was from her hometown and it was a long-distance relationship. Paula's father, in particular, did not approve of this relationship. Authorities did not consider the boyfriend to be a likely suspect, as there were no connections or links to him, but the father was insistent that they continue following that lead. And I guess I can see why, if you go with the waitress account, perhaps it was, her boyfriend. Maybe they could believe that that was her boyfriend who was acting abusive towards her. But it's ultimately the breakdown of the relationship between her father and authorities, because they really don't consider him a suspect or do anything to initiate that lead. One of the most compelling persons of interest in this case was Cadet. He was apparently in the midst of an argument with his girlfriend when Paula walked by. He stormed off in rage shortly afterwards, and depending on different statements he made, he went to his shack and spent the evening by himself, or he drove up the travel portion of the trail where Paula was heading. He lied to police on several occasions, and in 1955, Fred made a statement that he had seen Paula on the long trail the day she disappeared. In fact, he said he knew where to find her body. After intense questioning, however, Fred admitted that he had made up the entire story, apparently just looking for some attention, which is so fucked up. There could also be the suspicion around foul play, again with that sighting that this waitress had made, that maybe she was abducted by a man and he had driven her away from the trails and then she was spotted. I also saw that authorities at some point concluded there had may have been 2 girls in the area of the long trail on Sunday, Paula and another woman. And this woman was with a man who had a car, apparently. They both fit the description of Paula, except the other woman was taller. And this may have caused some confusion among the witnesses. If this confusion did disrupt those accounts, it could poke holes in where Paula had last been seen, making it open to the possibility that she met foul play before getting on the trail, or on her way from the trail. Another theory suggests that Paula's father was actually involved in her disappearance. In the week prior to her disappearance, she had planned to return to her family's home in Connecticut to celebrate Thanksgiving. However, Paula's roommate said that she had decided to stay on campus instead. The roommate had also said that Paula and her father had a disagreement prior to her disappearance, and this may have been due to his disapproval in her relationship. Paula's father also drew suspicion when he apparently vanished for 36 hours during the search for his daughter. He disappeared immediately after hearing his daughter was possibly seen by the waitress in Massachusetts. However, he did not tell anyone he was leaving or where he was going. I saw that he later claimed he saw a psychic who told him that the young man she had been seeing was responsible. It sounds like he was very, very adamant about her boyfriend being the suspect, so I'm sure after hearing this report of the waitress, he maybe thought that confirmed his suspicion. But after dipping out for 36 hours and then just randomly returning, everyone just thought it was a little sketchy that her dad did that. So some of that suspicion went towards him. Other theories have even suggested that she may have been related to the rumored paranormal activity in the area known as the Bennington Triangle. This is an area in southern Vermont where 5 people vanished between 1945 and 1950. According to the legend, the region has been a hotbed of unexplained experiences, sightings, and a number of disappearances. There have been sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature and UFOs and other paranormal activity that has dated back since the early 1800s. there's also been the mysterious disappearances that occurred in that 5-year period. Paula was the second of several people to go missing in what was later referred to as the Bennington Triangle. There are no known ties between any of the people who vanished, and the theories about these disappearances have ranged from paranormal activity to a serial killer. Others suggested that the unusual wind patterns may account for people getting lost around the mountain and never to be found due to the expansive and dense forests. Many people do bring up the fact that Paula was wearing a bright red coat, which would have made it easier for a search party to spot her. The other bizarre aspect was that there was no physical evidence or items that were ever discovered. Her case went on to inspire many books to be written. They have kind of dubbed this a little bit as the Red Riding Hood due to her red coat. And that is the unsolved disappearance of Paula Jean Weldon. So, I saw all your comments, and I think I'm going to just put out a post for questions, and then eventually do a Q&A, which I'm really excited for. Thank you guys for the interest. It's really cool. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a good day or good night wherever you are, and I hope you have a good day tomorrow, and I'm going to see you in my next video.